Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life community calendar at ncwlife.com.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kerry Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com. Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the NCW Life magazine. In today's episode, you will hear from guest host Steve Hare as he talks with Chelan County PUD General Manager Steve Wright. After their discussion, you will get to watch a fantastic documentary made by the Chelan County PUD back in 2014. That's all coming up next on the NCW Life magazine.
Enjoying the loop trail is hard work. There's a lot of rules to follow. Rules like, parking between the lines, in the actual parking lot, observing speed limits, especially in congested areas, walking on the right side of the trail, because we don't live in England, warning people before you pass them.
No, thank you. On your left.
Using garbage cans for trash, not the grass or the river. Please, don't be those guys. A message from your Chelan County PUD Parks.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life community calendar at ncwlife.com.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kerry Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com. Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
As a part of our effort to keep you informed on NCW Live channel, we'd like to bring into focus today the Chelan County PUD and its General Manager Steve Wright, who joins me right now in a casual conversation about the affairs of the PUD and changes that are coming in the future, and also maintaining some of the services and programs that have benefited this area in Chelan County. First of all, Steve, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I want to say it's great, Steve, to see you at NCW Life. I know you've got decades of experience here in following news in this area and following the PUD, so it's great to be with you. And it's really great to have NCW Life doing this kind of work because it helps us in terms of promoting the transparency that we want to have. We want customer owners to understand what we're doing here, and this is a benefit for us. So thanks for coming.
I think over the past several years we've seen the steps that the PUD has been taking to increase transparency and to enhance the information dissemination.
Well, we believe very much in this theme of customer owners, that the customers are the owners of the system, and as owners, if we're going to follow what they want, we need to understand what they want. So there's a dialogue that needs to happen, and this kind of conversation helps us with that dialogue.
Well, we're talking to you right now after the Board of Commissioners yesterday adopted the 2018 spending plan. Budget's going forward, and I wanted for you to have an opportunity to talk to our viewers about some of the highlights of that budget and how your long-term strategy plays out in terms of how you're going to be providing stewardship for the public funds.
Well, adoption of budgets is a watershed moment for us. We begin preparing our budget in February, and we come to a conclusion in December. So a lot of thought goes into it. What we're doing is we start with our strategic plan, and hopefully many folks by now have heard we have three big priorities in our strategic plan: investing in assets and people, reducing debt, and initiating a public power benefit program. It was built around the vision in 2014, 2015, when the plan was being put together, that we were likely to have many, many good years of great financial returns. The wholesale market looked really good. Our cost structure with hydropower looks very good in a high-priced wholesale market. And so we were thinking about how we would invest all of that potential benefit. The one thing that has changed pretty dramatically from the time of the strategic plan is that the wholesale market has come down significantly. So we've seen a lot of natural gas coming into the market, which is a direct competitor of ours as a result of fracking and other opportunities to be able to produce more domestic natural gas at lower cost. And a lot of solar and wind, particularly in the West, which is another competitor of ours.
So the alternate sources of energy then are affecting that surplus power that you normally sell on the open market?
Yeah, no question about it. So we were selling it, as was anybody in the West, roughly about $50 a megawatt hour back in 2013, and the prices today are somewhere between 25 to 30. So it's pretty much a halving of the cost, of the revenue that we would see from those sales.
What percentage or what slice of the pie does that take out of your budget?
So out of our budget, okay, so you got me on that one.
Sorry about that.
I'm going to have to think a little bit more about just how to calculate that number, but
it's obviously a large portion.
It's a big portion, right?
Yeah.
So it's particularly a big portion because it's our retail sales are subsidized by our wholesale sales. So when we reduce the wholesale revenue number, that then translates into a problem for us because we're using that revenue to keep our retail rates down. So in addition to the fact that we've had a reduction in the wholesale market, we also, as we have worked hard to understand the state of our assets, are coming to understand that they need more work than what we thought back in 2014, 2015. Larger amount of capital investment than we were anticipating. A good example was the one that we used at the board yesterday, where we have bridge cranes. So if you've been to Rocky Reach Dam and you've looked down at the turbines, there are these huge cranes which can move 500,000 pounds because turbines are big things. And they've been operating since the dam was complete in the early 1960s. So this is the first time we've taken them apart and actually seen what's going on inside of them. And we've discovered there are more cracks, more wear and tear, a few more things because we can understand stresses better today than we could back 50 years ago, a few more things that need work. So we're going to need to spend some time and some money, about $500,000, to try to work on fixing those up.
Sounds, though, that you will be doing this at a savings by doing it yourself rather than going out to contract on these things.
It's a combination of doing it ourselves and contracting, to be candid, because we have a lot more work. What we anticipate is doing about double the amount of work on the hydro units that we would do in a normal period. And we don't want to staff up for that double amount of work because then you would be overstaffed in the next period. So we're doing a combination of using our own crews and then working very much with contractors as well.
So the 2018 budget then is going to reflect some major capital improvements.
2018 will be the largest capital budget in recent memory. We go back to about 2000 in terms of looking at capital budgets, and certainly since the turn of the century, this is the largest capital budget by a large margin. That really does come out of the strategic plan, because remember in the strategic plan we said we're going to invest in assets and people, and the assets are the biggest component of that. And the hydro units are the biggest component of our asset base.
How is this going to affect your service on your long-term debt?
So Number one, we set a goal to reduce our debt and try to get down to below 35% debt to equity ratio. So we were at above 70%, over $1 billion back in that early 2010 period. We expect next year to hit our 35% target. We will have reduced our debt by about half. We'll be at just over about $500 million next year. So that's a pretty substantial achievement. We're now trying to look forward and say, where do we want to go in the future? And we're going to continue to do some more debt reduction, but probably not at the pace that we've been at. We will have achieved our target, which was based on what the bond rating agency thinks are necessary to be at the highest rating. We have one of the highest ratings of any consumer-owned utility in the country. We're in the top 5. So we want to be there. And then from that point, we use debt to manage both making sure that we're making investments for the long term, but also manage for rates.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the PUD is also going through a process of evaluating your facilities, relocating of facilities such as the headquarters. How is all of this playing out within, let's say, next year's budget?
Well, our buildings and facilities are assets just like everything else. They're things that we have to manage for the long term. Candidly, we did not have a strategic facilities plan before about a year ago. So we spent a fair amount of time just going through and understanding what's the state of our buildings and then what makes the most sense for the long term. We keep living by the motto of best value for our customer owners for the longest period of time. So when looking at our facilities, we said, what will be the least cost strategy over the long run? Brought in some folks from the outside who've helped us work through that. And we've now presented to our board and said, in some cases, refurbishment of buildings will make the most sense. In some cases, replacement of buildings will make the most sense, both in terms of cost and in terms of customer service. So what do I mean by customer service? So for example, 70% of our truck rolls from basically either this facility or the one up on Holly Street go north. And if you're going to be crossing the Wenatchee River Bridge on a regular basis for 70% of your truck rolls, and particularly in the likelihood that we're going to have increasing traffic up there, you want to think about, is that the best place for us to be located? We also have been trying to think through, so if a customer walks into this building, are they getting a customer-friendly experience? And candidly, if you come in and you want service, you have to go to 3 or 4 different places here, and it's hard to find them in order to be able to get service. So can we improve that customer experience at the same time by reducing our costs over the long run? We believe the answer to that is yes. But when you do this kind of analysis, you have a lot of assumptions in it. So we're now in the process of testing the assumptions. What would it cost for us to buy land if we were going to move? What would it cost for us to build buildings, can do RFPs and check and see how things are going? We got the first test of that yesterday. We have committed that we would build a new storage building down at Rock Island. We're storing a lot of stuff out in the elements, which generally doesn't tend to lead to longer life. And we estimated the cost of that, and the cost came in about $800,000 lower than what we estimated. So we feel like we're going to take these steps incrementally. We'll learn as we go, check and see what was our assumption, can we get it for that price or lower? If we can, then we likely would proceed. If we can't, then we stop and re-regroup.
We meet every Saturday for some exercise and some conversation. Bring the baby, the dog. It's great to get outside. It's me, Jen, Seth, Susie. The trail isn't super wide, but it fits the 4 of us perfectly. No, I don't think it matters that we take up the whole trail. It's there for us, right? What are we supposed to do? Walk in a single file line?
Share the road later.
Don't be those guys. Use just half the trail and keep it safe for everyone. A message from your Chelan County PUD Parks.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life community calendar at ncwlife.com.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Carrie Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com. Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
Affordable housing is expensive. So to save money, I found some new roommates on Craigslist.
Hey, you guys want some ghost stories? Yes. Yeah.
There's a better way to save. Visit conservationmakesense.org to find out how you can save on heating and cooling for your home with Chelan County PUD.
Chelan County is a land of great contrasts. This land is abundant in natural beauty. It has been called the American Alps. But perhaps its greatest natural treasure is water. Rainfall and snowmelt carve valley after valley through the land. The rivers of the county and the water of Lake Chelan are all drawn southward by the unstoppable purpose of mixing their waters with those of the greatest river of the West, the Columbia. The Columbia River pours more water into the Pacific than any other river in North or South America. Here in central Washington, the Columbia divides the mountains on the western shore from the flood-formed coulees and sage plains of the east. Moving upriver from Chelan County's southern boundary near Cabinet Rapids, you soon reach Rock Island Dam, the first dam built on the Columbia River. But before there was a dam, there was Rock Island.
The rocks of Rock Island now sit mostly submerged just upriver from the dam. In the 1800s, Rock Island, with its narrow, plunging channels and rock-strewn rapids, formed an all but impassable barrier to river shipping. Before modern times, for untold generations, Rock Island was sacred ground. The natives of the Columbia sought their visions near the Great River. Clues to what these seekers saw may be discovered in the basalt carvings of Rock Island. The hundreds of rock drawings, or petroglyphs of Rock Island, reveal the life stories of another time, a time when the lines between the natural and supernatural worlds blurred. To this day, Rock Island is still recognized by the Native Americans of the Mid-Columbia as a special place of great power. Petroglyph stones from Rock Island and the Orondo pictograph are on display in the Museum of the Columbia at Rocky Reach Dam.
It is a short distance from Rock Island to Wenatchee, but it is also a leap in time from weathered basalt cliffs to city streets, green parks, and river walkways. The Apple Capital Loop Trail circles 10 miles of Columbia shoreline. It is just one among many parks and recreational opportunities available within Chelan County. 7 miles upriver from Wenatchee is Rocky Reach Dam. Construction on the dam began in 1956. Today, more than 7 million people throughout the Northwest benefit from the energy produced at Chelan County PUD dams. The story of how that power is generated begins with water.
The basics of hydropower are the same for most facilities that generate with water, and that is we use the power of the water. We harness that. That flows through the facility and turns a turbine and ultimately generates electricity. The difference between hydropower, for one thing, is water is our fuel. This project is positioned in the middle of the river. All the water flow that comes to this facility, we either generate with it, or at times we might have to spill for fish or flood control, but we ultimately return all of that flow back into the same river channel, and I think that's the beauty of hydro. It's using that renewable resource in a way that doesn't harm it. What we generate at Rocky Reach serves the average daily requirements of a Seattle-sized city. It all starts with what we call our headwater elevation. So that's where the dam is holding the water back. At Rocky Reach, that's about 92 feet of head from the difference of the headwater to the tailwater, as we call it. Once the water comes into the intake, it flows across a turbine which really resembles a large propeller. That water goes over the turbine, starts to turn that propeller. That's got a shaft that is attached to a device called a rotor. We turn that into a magnet. That turns, in this plant, 90 RPMs within a copper circle called a stator. So as we're turning that 90 RPMs, that causes electron flow, which we call electricity. Once we create the electricity, then there's a flow of electricity that we need to get through the power station, out of the power station, into those major switch yards. But that flow has to continue on all the way until the electricity does its work. From the major transmission stations here, the switch yard, we have high voltage that we transmit into the local communities. There's several steps along the way to reduce that voltage down to something that's more user-friendly for the end customer. The way we do that is we transmit to a distribution substation or switch yard. Those are those small fenced-in areas you see around your community. So we've reduced the voltage down at that station, put that on to the distribution power lines. You see those with the wood poles and the wires around the community. We then further get that closer to the home or business, reduce it down to even more user voltage, and put that into the homes, into the businesses, and that's ultimately the end of the journey for the electricity flow. The whole process of generating electricity is amazingly fast. If we take the time it takes to get the water through the turbines, generate the electricity, take that electricity to our transformers, step that electricity up to a higher voltage, get it to your homes, it's a matter of seconds from the point of that water generating the power to where we actually deliver it to the end user is much, much quicker than the time that I've taken to mention these words.
The reservoir that extends over 40 miles behind Rocky Reach Dam is named Lake Iniat. Today, Lake Iniat offers peaceful views of a serene Columbia River. 100 years ago, the steamboat captains who sailed these waters viewed the rapids just below the town of Iniat as one of the most treacherous stretches on the mid-Columbia.
The mile-long Iniat Rapids resembled a huge braided rope with 3 twisted channels knotted together by sandbars. In the best of times, passage was difficult. At any time, it was extremely dangerous. In May of 1902, the steamer Camino twisted, turned, and sank in the heavy current. The Iniat Rapids also claimed the steamship Echo, and then the Pringle went down in 1906. But these mishaps didn't close the river highway. Early every morning, a steamer out of Wenatchee would labor upriver for the 12-hour run to Brewster and points in between. The downriver journey only took 6 hours. In 1914, a new railroad line to the Canadian border did what the Iniat Rapids could not do. It shut down the steamer trade on the Columbia, leaving only the memory of steam whistles to echo over the river. Images and reflections of Columbia River steamboat days are on exhibit in the Museum of the Columbia at Rocky Reach Dam.
Chelan Falls is the next town upriver from Iniat. It sits on a site long inhabited by man. Chinese miners formed a substantial community near the falls in the 1800s. For centuries before that, Chelan Indians had a village there. The town is named for the series of falls that tumble through the rocky gorge of the 4-mile-long Chelan River. The river's steep 400-foot drop prevented any salmon migration into Lake Chelan. Today, there is a hatchery north of Chelan Falls. It is but one of 10 hatcheries located throughout Chelan County. All are working together to accomplish the goal of preserving and increasing the fish of Chelan County.
Chelan County is truly an amazing place. It's got an incredible diversity both of land and water and of the wildlife species that we have here. When you think about it, we have tremendous topography here where we start in alpine forests and end up in sagebrush towards the Columbia River there. Essentially what ties it all together is the water. It just trickles down from the mountains and creates these different feeder creeks and streams and rivers that create the lifelines for not only the fish but the people that have been living here too. When you consider the life cycle of the salmon, the end is really the beginning. And what I mean by that is when the adults come back and they lay their eggs in the gravel, as you see right here, that begins the cycle of life again. And you have 2 adults that come in and they lay the eggs, fertilize the eggs, and then they build a mound of gravel over it. And in a few months, the fish come out of the redds and they're real small. We call them alevins. And then they will, depending on the species, stay in the fresh water for a matter of time and then start heading out to the ocean. And on their way to the ocean, they've got to pass through the main stem Columbia with the hydro projects on it. They get to the ocean and through the estuary and past all the predators, and then they spend varying amounts of times in the ocean. And if they get past all the people that want to catch them, they try to go through the ocean, back up the river, and start the cycle again. Hatcheries have played a big role in the salmon and steelhead that are coming back to Chelan County. Because of reduced numbers, we've been trying to increase the numbers of naturally spawning salmon and steelhead in our area with hatcheries. Hatchery programs all function essentially the same way. They collect adult fish that they call the broodstock. They collect the eggs from the fish, and then they are fertilized, brought back into incubation buildings where the eggs are put in the trays and you run water over them for a matter of months. And then the fish are brought into either bigger ponds closer to where we want them to return, or in cases like this hatchery, they're just released right from the hatchery. Just in Chelan County alone, we have a large hatchery program. Grant PUD has a hatchery program. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife has hatchery programs, and the Yakima Nation has hatchery programs. And we're all trying to work on different segments of the different populations of salmon and steelhead that are here. The Chelan PUD has been a pioneer in trying to come up with ways to make the passage at our projects more safe for fish. We negotiated a habitat conservation plan that sets a survival standard higher than any that have been set before, and I believe it was the first habitat conservation plan for a hydro system in the nation. Environmental stewardship at Chelan PUD is paramount for us. What we've been able to do is reach a survival standard that allows us to still have good runs of salmon and still operate our project in a cost-effective manner.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kerry Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com. Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.